We've been working hard on our defence, and we've been, making strides. We've been getting better and better, and I have to say it was very good on Sunday. The score doesn't suggest that, but when you look at it a little bit more closely, we gifted them at least 21 of the points, probably 24 when you look at the last penalty. But 2 interceptions and a head start like that was disappointing. But we know we can score tries, so. It was just a little bit of a start we didn't need, particularly in the conditions and going away from home. But all credit to the boys, come back really well, showed a lot of character and a bit of confidence and calmness to back themselves to come through in the end.
I mean, implementing a cultural change doesn't happen overnight, but there must be some signs there that are pleasing you the way it's going.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they're a good group of boys. Me personally and Andy, we've been particularly hard on them. We've set high standards that we want to improve individually and collectively, and they're buying into it. They work hard, they're very diligent, and by and large they're carrying things out. There's little things to tweak here and there, but it's about the end product rather than what's happening right at this moment.
Guessing though you're a much happier man than when you spoke to us after the Cornish Pirates game.
Well, you could see, my frustrations even that early on, and hadn't been in that long. But one thing about these players, this group, they listen, they take it on board, and they work hard to try and improve. And there are signs of that. And I think the other positive to come out of last weekend is we made some changes, some positive changes to a winning team, and it strengthens our squad base. And the bench did a great job coming off the bench.
I mean, you're trying to play a certain brand of rugby. It's been very productive in terms of bonus points. I mean, do you accept that it does have a sort of element of risk to it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does have an element of risk, as giving away 2 interceptions shows. We're not actually kicking penalties. We've only kicked 4 penalties for goals successfully, whereas our opponents this week, London Welsh, have kicked the most. I think it's 28 penalties. That tells you the slight difference. We scored the most tries. Give or take 1 or 2 teams that have played lesser opposition in the table, but there is an element of high risk. But we also recognise from our experience the standards that need to be set if we had to push on. And there was only ever really 1 team in it on the weekend, even though they had a good start. And I read the Plymouth coach's comments after the game, and I think he'd be rather embarrassed now he's reviewed the game. In the 31 minutes of ball in play, nearly 20 of the minutes we spent in their 22. Only just about 5 minutes in our 22, and scoring 6 tries, and I've counted at least 4 that we've got across the line on top of the 6. I think paints a fair picture of how the game really went. So he'd be a bit embarrassed about his comments, but we have a strong squad, and the boys are confident at the moment. They're playing some good rugby, but there's a long way to go.
You mentioned the four penalties thing. Can you, given the status of the game on Sunday, continue that way of playing? I mean, or will there be a bit more pragmatism in the style of play?
Yeah, I think we're evolving. I think what we're trying to set the scene to the players is we can go and play and score tries. Excuse me, and you're going to need to. You can't just rely on 3-6-9 when it comes to games like against London Welsh, Rotherham, Leeds. The teams that are doing really well at the top are going to be combative, and you're going to need to go and score points. So that's the message we've set out early doors, if you like. But clearly, as Lee Halfpenny showed in the summer with the Lions, you need a strong goal kicking game as well, and that can come. It's not like the boys are not practicing it. It's just at the moment we're trying to be as relentless as we can and show some positivity, and it's having a desired effect at the moment.
London Welsh this weekend, then a run of 3 difficult games. By December the 1st, when you play Leeds, will you have a clear idea of exactly where you are?
I think we'll have a better idea. We're getting a better idea each week, and I think it's fair to say that all the games are difficult, or have been difficult so far, and they've each been different. So and they just keep coming, don't they? We got London Welsh now at top, clearly the most consistent team in the league at the moment, and I would imagine would be fired up this week with Justin wanting to prove a point against Bristol. Everybody's bigged up Bristol. The reality is we are a championship team that is trying to build, just like the other teams at the top of the table. So nothing's going to be won in terms of trophies or leagues or promotion this weekend, but it'd be a good benchmark to find out exactly where we are now.
November the 10th, obviously the season goes on until June the 4th. hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's not going to determine anything, but psychologically, and in terms of maybe a message that it would send to not just the Welsh but to the rest of the championship, can you gain something by winning?
I think possibly, and there are games within games as well. I think whatever the outcome on the weekend, both teams are clearly going to be still in with a shout. They have to come back to the men whatever happens, and what transpires on the weekend will have an effect on what happens in the return game. But clearly, there's some good sides around that will knock points off us and London Welsh, and it's about for us keep building a standard of performance and to aim for that top four. As I say, you can finish top way out in front and still lose it at the end with the playoff system. So we're mindful of that. It's about peaking at certain times of the season.
On injuries, Ben Moss has looked like he took a heavy knock at the weekend. Good to see him back on his feet after the game, but is he ruled out this week?
No, he's all right. He took a bit of a daze, but he played well, Ben. He's doing well in contact and taking the line forward, which is important for us. Just took a bit of a knock, but he's okay. I think it's more precaution than anything, a bit of drama there when that happens. But no, he's fine. Brian Rennie came through his 30 minutes, which is really pleasing, and a positive effect on the game. But centre is an area where we've picked up a couple of knocks with Lukey's, and now for two have been called up for Samoa. So Ben and Brian have become vital players for us.
But that does show the depth you've got, doesn't it? I mean, the fact you can lose Lukey's, who I think hadn't missed a game in the championship since coming to the club, and Otto, who's played international rugby, and you're still in a position of relative strength there.
Well, that's right, and that's what you need, isn't it? With a long season, with the involvement of the British and Irish Cup, potential call-ups and call-aways for the younger players as well in the 20s, like Callum Brayley and people like that. So, yeah, it is important, and I think with the teams at the top, they clearly have the bigger squads and are able to manage things a little bit better than some of the teams that struggle on their size of squad, and that's a big factor for us, and we've got to be bold in our selection, and we will again this week going to London Welsh.
How are you at tight head prop? Obviously Hobbo is still ruled out presumably, and James Hall missed the game last week. Is he back in there? Yeah,
we could have pushed James Hall last week, but again we showed some confidence in the squad. Bruce Douglas is a seasoned campaigner and did a job there in the weekend. So we didn't really want to risk it with the next couple of games in mind. It paid off. It was possibly a little bit of a gamble, but it paid off, and the boys did well there in Plymouth. But so Holley will come back into the reckoning this week. Hobbo is still a few weeks away. He's got one of those obscure sort of injuries that is going to take a bit of a while. But yeah, no, we're fine there. We've got Gaston Cortez playing this week now in midweek against Cambridge University to tick him along. So we're lucky. We've got a bit of depth, still to come.
Anyone else suffered injury at the weekend?
No, we got a slight issue with Nick Carpenter again, another centre, a young centre. We got a lot of promise for, just a bit of a foot injury there. There's a slight issue with Redford Pennycook, but nothing that can't be resolved on the weekend. So, other than that, I think we're not too bad. Yeah.
And overall, 6 games in, plus 2 BNI check games, 1 if you don't include a game that got 68 minutes in. You're in a fairly good position, aren't you?
Yeah, we are, and the squad is reasonably healthy. We've still got Luke to come back. Jack Wallace isn't far away from coming back. As I say, Hobbo to return. We've only just had Ross Johnson back after a suspension. Hopefully Fatu will come back from the autumn series refreshed and ready to really challenge, because he's had a stop-start to the season. So I'd say, pre-midterm satisfactory, could do better, only purely to keep the players on their toes. But what I'm pleased to say is there's no need to at the moment. They're driving it forward themselves, and that's really pleasing for a coach.
One final question on admin really is whether the club's decided if they'll be in it against the 1 point deduction.
I think we're still in the period where we can deliberate that and decide whether. I think Andy will deal with that with John, and we'll make an announcement probably when that time limit's up. But personally, I'm just cracking on with preparation for the weekend.